Hi and welcome to the IT Service Management Mentor. Let's talk about SDLC. So, stands for Software Development Lifecycle, and it includes activities which outline planning, multiple software build steps. Sometimes some of those are repeated if you roll back, for example, who is doing what in the activity, what the phases are. It's worth noting some steps that we'll go through are added or changed slightly per organisation. So those phases, those steps are feasibility study, requirement analysis and gathering. Then you design it, then you've got to code it, then you've got to test it. Does it work? Then you look to release that into the production environment, so you're deploying it, and then you're operating it and you're maintaining it, and your service ops and your support teams and BAU teams start to come into play. So let's look at feasibility study. So you've got the project team established at this point. You're understanding what are the constraints in place. So questions, for example, that need answers to is, are there any other business projects on the go at the moment that might conflict with this? What's the timeline? Is there a budget? How much? Capability. So have you got capability in-house to do this, or do you need to go externally and get an IT contractor or perhaps a service provider to help you with that? And then the idea of, are you going to build it, or are you going to develop it in-house, or are you going to buy it as a commercial off-the-shelf type software or solution? I've got another video on this on my channel, so please do check that out. Requirements gathering analysis, so the BAs creating the specification of what is needed, what's the as-is situation, what's the to-be situation, what the workflows and the business rulings are looking like, how it currently operates, and how it's going to look like in the new world. Maybe including some scenarios in there, taking into consideration compliance, regulatory elements, security elements. Perhaps there's a Sarbanes-Oxley element to this, for example, needs to be baked in. I like to use that word. That compliance, regulatory and that security thinking needs to be baked in right at the beginning, not once it's been released into production and it's an afterthought. No, it needs to be baked in right at the beginning. Establishing data details, use cases, sample screens, reports, walk through the customer, the various cases and sample screens. It will definitely tease out data details. Once you've gathered that information, these are played back to the customer for sign off. Is this going to meet the needs of the customer ultimately? And then you've got your scope, and then agree on that scope. Once signed off, you can then go on to the next stage. That's your designing stage. So there's two elements to this. You've got your logical design, you've got your physical design. Logical design is a helicopter view, a general sort of fit of how everything works together, how perhaps there's a hierarchy element of this, so you can see it visually as, oh, okay, that system goes into that, or that activity goes into there. It's a high level helicopter view of how everything fits together. The physical design, that's where the detail starts to come in. It's more detail on table relationships, for example, or field relationships. How does field A link into field B on a different table? And then that's opened out to review and to comment and to Q&A activities. So you would include your architecture team, your service operations, your dev team, business ops, customers, end users. And then you've got to code it. So this is a coding stage. So the team starts to write the code and to deliver on those requirements. Really important to look for reuse opportunities. Don't try and reinvent the wheel. It's already been done. Look for time-saving ideas. Look for efficiency thinking. So, for example, was something used that is a similar requirement for another project recently, or maybe another customer, that you can adapt it, you can fine-tune it again. Think around efficiency, think about time saving, think about what you've already got, what assets are already there. Don't reinvent the wheel. Then you've got your unit testing. So this is a software testing method, small pieces of source code that's logically isolated and automated. Does that small part behave as you would expect? It's usually a function or a procedure of some kind. Ultimately, is it fit for use? And then perhaps, not in all cases, but perhaps a low case demo, just to ensure you're on the right track and you're generally going in the right direction. You don't want to be missing anything fundamental. And then testing. Does it work? Okay. Does it work as expected? Does it work in line with the requirements gathering? Does it work as per your logical and physical design that you did earlier? Does it work from the customer perspective? Very important. Are they going to be happy with it? And then you've got your various types of testing. So unit testing, as we said, it's small pieces of source code, small bits of code that's logically isolated and automated. Does it work as you thought it would? Integration testing, so you're testing as a group for functional requirements or perhaps compliance at this stage. This is usually completed after unit testing, but consider upstream interfaces and downstream interfaces. Load testing, ultimately, can it cope with the demand? So maybe think around periods of peak activity within your business. What about month end? What about year end? What about this new product launch that's coming around the corner? Is it going to be able to cope with a particular load level? And there's technology and there's tools out there that can help you with that. And then the UAT, user acceptance. Have actual users. Perhaps you've got some friendly IT friendly people that can help with this, that are going to be able to provide some good levels of feedback there. And then, okay, you're now at the deploy it stage. So let's go. Whoa, wait, just final checklist. Let's just be clear. Is there a no-go or a no-go or a go meeting type required? Some kind of gate maybe? Does it need to be approved by any kind of governance boards you might have in place? Change advisory board, CAB. What about when it needs to be released? Is there a forward schedule of change you need to be thinking about? So it's avoiding other changes or other releases. Periods of peak activity, we've already talked about that. Maybe there's an accounting period or a sales launch. Think about when is a good time to deploy it. And then the implementation approach. Do you go the big bang approach, or do you do a phased or a stage deployment of this? Is it by country or by region or by continent or by office or by zone, whatever it may be? And then when's the best time to do it? Have you got your trending around when are most people using the systems? Perhaps your operation is strictly 9 to 5, so anything outside of those hours is a good time to do it. Perhaps you're a 24/7 operation. Maybe you're a global operation. You need to think about time zones. Is there a service outage? What about communication? Do you need to communicate to your user base that the system's going to be unavailable at a particular time? Or perhaps there's an agreed maintenance window. So the deployment phase. And then it's over to operate, BAU, maintenance. So your service operations team hopefully are aware of this release or update or service. Maybe there's documentation in place, a production acceptance document, for example. Ideally, your service desk need to be briefed. They need to be thinking about, we're suddenly going to get calls relating to this update of a system or new system perhaps, or whatever it may be. Have they got the right support information? What about your ITSM tool? Have you thought through what are those workflows? Have you got the assignments set up for tickets? Does the service desk know how to deal with tickets that are coming in terms of assignment? Does it go to an external vendor? Is there an internal team? Maybe there's an early life support team. What about floor walking? Once it's delivered, is there a team of people walking around the office perhaps, or the warehouse, or wherever it may be, checking that everything's working okay? Are they your first line of defence in terms of support? And then any software fixes. That's it. Very, very brief update and an overview on SDLC. Please do subscribe and click like.